well, it also too, it's just a requirement nowadays. You have to have good security, or you're gonna be in pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you've got to do it.
There's one thing I value, it's real talk. This is going to be a really great conversation. So I just really want to dive right on in. David, tell everybody about you.
Well, hey, Robin, thanks for having me on. Known each other for well over a decade now. So about me. Well, right now I'm a little nomadic. My wife and I just hit a stage where we don't have kids at the house. We don't have grandkids on the way. So you might
Okay.
notice my surroundings. I'm in an RV right now. So it's a rental. We haven't fully committed, but no, I think probably more what we're going to talk about is I'm founder of SecureIT 360. We're a Birmingham-based cybersecurity company. We work all over the country. Been around almost 16 years. I started with my background in physics. Um, you might hear. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about
Yeah,
that
we're
here in a little
definitely
bit.
good.
But then ended up, love physics, love math, love science, and then that's where I gravitated towards IT because, I love learning as well. And so, what else is ever changing other than technology? And so I was
Absolutely.
able to apply the science and the analytical background to IT to begin with, and then I ended up in cybersecurity. So we'll get there during the podcast. I've got 4 great kids, wonderful wife. So I'm totally blessed. Just you know we got to stop and remember that every day. Count our
Absolutely, we
blessings.
do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we do. So everybody that comes on gets the same questions, and the Real Talk series is really meant to be about real talk. You
Mm-hmm.
and I have talked before, and I just have just a strong desire for genuine conversation, and I think there's an opportunity for us to share. But like, we're going to hit these questions. If we make it all the way through, great. If we don't make it all the way through, who cares? Every guest comes on, and the last question is, what's your data point? So I always look forward to seeing
Mm-hmm.
what the guest is going to bring to that, and it's been fantastic. So one of the very first questions is like, what is the earliest career pivot that you made?
Well, as I thought about it, there's so many. I mean, I could even go
Mhm.
back to college to where I started in finance and business, and I was like, I really love physics, so I went to physics. But that's where my pivot comes in. Is made it through graduate school, UAB for physics. I was bartending at night because associate professors don't make a whole lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And somebody said, hey, why don't you come do this IT stuff and just have one job? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I'd already been maintaining computer labs in the physics department. I was teaching sophomore physics. And yeah, it wasn't a huge hurdle for me. I mean, I did still keep a few shifts at the bar because the money was good. But
The money was good. Yeah.
yeah, the money was good. It was fun. But I mean, at that point, my oldest was already born, so it was about time for a lifestyle change, and I
Okay.
started doing technology.
Yeah, I kinda like that concept of, sometimes we face pivots, like, and we'll talk about those pivots we didn't want. But, like, I like the idea of making a pivot because you're ready to make a lifestyle change. I actually like that you went back to, well, I started in business and finance, and then I went to physics, and then I took this
Yeah,
bartending job, and then like, decided this time to go pursue, like, the career job. And then even in your
yeah,
career job, you went and pursued like, it's just interesting that you went to tech. I am
yeah,
curious though, as long as I've known you, because I when I met you, I was always fascinated by the fact that you were physics. Like in my mind, it was like you were all of physics. So, and I know you're not, but what brought you to physics? Like, what made you want to do physics?
I think I'm a glutton for punishment.
Okay.
Maybe that's not really the right word. Now, I'd love to challenge myself. If I see something hard, I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that, and I get the personal satisfaction of doing it. So, with the business and finance, and no offense to any business and finance majors that are listening here,
Yeah.
but for me, I found it, and of course, a little backstory. My dad owned his own business. He was a CPA, so I was exposed to the CPA practice from a very young age, and even
Got
worked
it.
in my dad's accounting firm doing certain things even through early college. So it's probably because of that exposure. I just didn't find it that challenging. I felt like a lot of business was common sense. Now some of the finance stuff obviously is more complicated, but spend less than you make, save,
Yeah.
do the math. Those types of things seemed easy to me. So I decided, yeah, I'll challenge myself. I really enjoyed physics in high school. I was great at math. Those things came easy to me. And so I picked the hardest thing I could find, and I learned how to drink less beer and drink more coffee as I finished my degree at Georgia Southern. Yeah.
That's awesome, and I love coffee, so that's a
Hmm.
great pivot from beer to coffee for sure. Yes. Yes, I have mine. I have mine too.
Hmm.
It's like a radar. I go straight to the coffee pot
Yeah.
everywhere I go. So, I love this question about pivots we really don't wanna face, 'cause I think there's just a lot that can really happen that's positive out of pivots that maybe we don't want. So talk about some of the pivots you've had to pivot and maybe you really didn't want to.
It's funny. There's one big one which I'll get to real quick, but just now when we were having this conversation, it reminded me, as far as a lifestyle change
Mhm.
and leaving the bartending, that's the only job I've ever been fired from. So,
Okay.
so now this is my story, and
Okay.
no
Real
names we
talk. Let's
mentioned.
go.
Yeah, yeah, no names we've mentioned, but I've known the gentleman that let me go. I still know him. We're still friends. He runs a different restaurant in Birmingham now, but at the time that I was bartending, it was understood that you leave a drink for the dishwasher in a go cup just right up on the bar. That's what you were supposed to do.
Okay.
And so that's the way I was trained. That's what I did. So one evening, everybody was just acting like a bunch of idiots in the restaurant. They weren't cleaning up. It was late. The general manager came in. I had just set that drink up there, and he was ready to have everybody cleaned out and out of there. And he goes, "Is
Oh,
there alcohol in that drink?" And I knew it. I was like, "Yes." He said,
oh
"You're fired."
no.
So I was like, "Wow, didn't see that one coming." And so, speaking of pivots that you didn't expect, so that kind of forced me to really say, well, I've got my physics degrees. Maybe I should do something with them. So that was an early one, but that wasn't really what got me. Well, I guess we're the culmination of all the our history. But
Love
but really
that.
the pivot that I thought of was after I had advanced into my IT career. I had been a CIO. The accounting firm I was working for had been absorbed by a larger accounting firm out of the Northeast. When I met the CIO, I thought it was time for me to hit the street, get my resume ready. And he said, "Oh no, David, I want you to handle security. We're not really." And this was back in oh seven, maybe 08.
Okay. Okay.
And then back then it was called information security. The cyber word had not been uttered yet in
Mm,
cyberspace.
mm.
So I was like, sure, great. Well, fast forward to 2009, and I was in charge of security and business continuity at this top 10 accounting firm, which was heavy in real estate. And for those of you that are old enough to remember the 08, 09 crash, that was real
Yes.
estate. So one afternoon, I get this call. It's like, this is going to be an unpleasant conversation. Um,
Mm.
your position has been eliminated, but we want you to start consulting for us. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, they gave me the great opportunity to start my own business, not by my choice, but it's a blessing that you just never know when that proverbial door closes and the next one opens. But right at the time, and of course I was out of town and had to drive home.
Yeah.
And on that day, I was actually in Atlanta. We had to do it by video conference, and there was some extreme flooding in Atlanta. Like part of I-20 was flooded.
Okay.
So it took me 6 hours after I had just been let go to drive home from Atlanta to Birmingham. It was a wonderful day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough. So that pivot like just continuously evolved, right? Because that's what kind of kicked off SecureIT 360, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So your old boss was your first customer,
Yeah.
and that's a great story, right? And I remember those days because I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna start my first business, and it was July of '09.
Yeah.
So but I already had people that were wanting to work with me. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just make money this way. And so there was my pivot out of being somebody else's employee and being my own employer. Yeah, but I can remember those days were kind of scary. Like, how does this work? Like, can I
Oh yeah,
really sustain myself with
yeah, and
contract
by
work?
'09, yeah, and by '09, I had 4 kids. So
Oh
so my oldest
my
was a teenager, and the youngest was 4 at that point in time. So in and at that time, with the economy being what it was, there weren't a lot of high level IT jobs in Birmingham. So that's where it started. It's like, well, what do I do? Do I go try to find another CIO job? Uh, do I relocate the family? And having, we skipped a part of my history, but I was one of the founders of TechLinks, which for those that are in Birmingham might know it. It's now evolved and been acquired by C-Spire, but a great, we meet so many great people along the way. But
Oh yeah,
was
definitely.
was fortunate to work with Stuart Rayburn when he went to start it, and so I already kind of had the entrepreneurial bug, and I was like, well, I've done it before. We started with 3 of us, and we grew TechLinks, and then I left TechLinks to go into the accounting firms, and now here I am again with I've got skills, I got friends.
Yeah,
People will take my call, so let's go see if we
that's
can't get
always
some
nice.
business.
That's always
And it
nice.
and for
Yeah.
those that are about to do that, it is not that easy.
It's
There's
it's really it is
a
really a
lot
lot.
of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wanna since we're being real, like,
Hmm.
I think it is really important to also, like, highlight, okay, for your old boss who's in a crisis situation who is gonna turn around and ask you to be a contractor, that means you had to have some form of real relationship where you were already showing value to the organization, and it just was, like, an unfortunate
Yeah.
scenario where they're asking you to do this. So I think when we tell people like be careful, don't burn any bridges, like this is sometimes one of the things that happens. Companies have to let people go and adjust, but the fact that yours came to you and said I got to let you go, but I want to give you an opportunity to be a contractor, I think is amazing. I would say it's probably pretty rare that that happens though, right? Like you don't really hear a lot of people have that in their story, which is why we're here to talk about it. Like, I would like, maybe I would hope that would be my story.
Yeah.
I would act and conduct myself if I were starting now. I'd love to be able to perpetuate that being a part of my story if I was an entrepreneur at
Yeah.
heart, right? Like, it just depends on what
Exactly.
you're into. Yeah, I
Well,
like it.
it's well, there was quite a few things that all of our. I forget who I was reading. I think his name is shoot. I'll think of him in a minute. But anyway,
Okay.
um, we get to choose how we replay our history,
Mm,
and we can choose to replay our history in a way that it's a positive experience. It might
that's
have been
correct.
painful at the time, but all of the different things that happened to me along the way, and all the wonderful people I met, and all of the experiences I had, helped me to where I am today, and especially at
Yes.
the formation of SecureIT 360, which it used to have this really goofy name. And my mentor said, I think you should change the name. And I said, Jim, if that's what you want me to do, and it's going to get people to sign up with me, I will do it.
Whatever.
I'll wear a pink suit, whatever it is, because it was hard.
Yeah.
But no, the experience at the accounting firm with the independence that they provide, and they don't sell other services. There's certain limitations with law firms, accounting firms, that of things they can and cannot do. That stuck with me. The experience of being with the IT shop with TechLinks, the MSP, and the combination of the two. That's where when I started, without trying to be a gimmick at the time, there was accounting firms that offered certain types of security audits. Back then, they were called a SAS 70. They've now evolved into SOC 2. And there were IT firms that offered security audits, but they were all centered around the technology and how do I configure this firewall and should I buy this
Hmm.
endpoint protection or whatever it might be. But there were very few security firms that just did cyber. And so I took my experience from both of them and said, I think that this might be a better model if I can show up and say, hey, I understand how your IT systems run. I understand what the requirements are from your various control sets. but I'm going to give you my best advice, and I'm not going to say, and here, buy this thing from me. It's,
Yeah.
here's the answer. Here's all the things that's wrong with you, and here's an SOW to sign, and we'll get it all fixed for you. So I really
Yeah.
felt strongly that, very much like a financial audit and the independence that accounting firms have to maintain, is it's valuable to your customer. And even though it evolves some, because now our customers are saying, well, we already trust you, why won't you fix this for us? I'm like, well, I hear you, but
Yeah.
I would still like to be able to say, there are many solutions to your problem. Even if I'm one
Yes.
of them, you can solve that problem other ways. You don't have to use me. So I feel confident that our advice is good, and that we're offering good, prudent advice. And so, use us, don't use us, but get yourself secure.
Yeah. I can remember you being one of the earliest examples of people I because I do believe in leveraging expertise, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't believe you can be all things to all people. And I think once you figure out who you are and where you serve, if you have the luxury of having expertise in your network, like, it's amazing. And I can remember early on you being one of the first examples of someone I thought, okay, I like what he does. I like how he is. I like how he's serving his customers. He's using leveraging his expertise to support their projects. He's not necessarily selling them software. He's not selling them 100-year support contracts. He's really trying to figure out what are your problems and fix it. So, I mean, I've seen you live that out since I've known you, which is incredible, right? Like, I love it. I think it's really, really awesome. I think you have a lot to offer people, but you've also seen a ton of transition in the security space during your time. Like, I feel like security is a constant pivot.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There's manufacturers, software companies that we provide services over the top of, that supposedly we're partners. Call us resellers, but it's really about the service.
Yeah.
But now it's like everybody competes with us, whether you're
Yes.
an MSP or whether you're supposedly my partner, but yet you offer a service very similar to mine. Well, it also too, it's just a requirement nowadays. You have to have good security, or you're gonna be in pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you've got to do it. There's lots of different pieces of it now. Even way back when, which was another thing that we talked about during some of the prep for this conversation, is you could be in IT and do just about everything. So in the 90s, yes, I'm dating myself. In the 90s, we would make the cables. We would we would actually cable the infrastructure. We didn't have all this wireless technology nowadays, but we would run
Mhm.
the cables, even crimp the ends, install the servers in the racks, get the internet stood up, stand up the firewall, if you even had one. Firewalls weren't
Yeah.
even a requirement at one point.
Exactly.
Um, and then you'd get the email server up and running, because Microsoft 365 wasn't available. Gmail and Hotmail were around. I don't even know if Gmail was around then, but anyway, you did it all, and then you'd install the database server. And
Yep.
so, just moving forward to what you were talking about with security, security wasn't really even that much of a structured discipline back in the
Right.
90s. That was hitting the commercial space. Now, obviously, Department of Defense and other folks like that
Yes.
had programs around it, around their information security programs. But look at cybersecurity now, and it's not just a cybersecurity specialist. It's a multidiscipline team of experts. So
Yes.
even as the technology has grown, every piece that used to be kind of a single thread or a single domain has now been broken down into subdomains or
Yes.
subdisciplines. And so,
Yes.
to your point, you can't be. At one point, I thought I could be an expert at everything, and then I realized that was a failing proposition. And I like, all
Yes.
right, let me let me just try to be good at a few things instead of trying to be good at everything.
I learned pretty early on I was not an expert at everything because like my standard joke is the subnet masking class I went to, and I was like, I never want to hear this again. And then
Exactly.
I actually had somebody attempted to teach me how to crimp like some kind of cat 5, like like when I started, people were still, they had peer to peer networks too, right? Like that was still a
Yep.
thing. And I was like, I never want to do this again. And I cannot even imagine running cords or wire or anything in any type of walls. And back in those days, that was my, like when I thought about IT people, I was thinking about like you're hooking stuff up, you're running it through the wall, you're getting me on the internet, you've got servers in closets. Like y'all get take care of all that stuff. And once you get it there, I want to work with it
Right.
at that point. So I knew pretty early on I didn't want to be an expert
Yeah.
in some
And
things. Yeah.
it used to be so much more difficult that, again, nowadays when you get your home internet service, which is many, many times faster than the best commercial internet service of the 90s,
Yes.
and T1s became the primary communication at 1.5 or 1.5 megs per second.
Oh my gosh.
So, but when you hook that up to a router, you had to have all your settings correct. And it wasn't just plug and play like we've got with our cable modems and the other equipment we get at home now and get that high speed data. It was there was many times with long phone conversations on, hey, I thought the settings were supposed to be this. I'm not getting signal or I'm not getting a connection. What are we
Yes.
doing wrong? And you're troubleshooting with AT&T or whoever.
I can remember back in those days, you said T1, it just made me have all these
Yeah.
flashbacks, but it mainly specifically made me remember like telling people, no, you have to secure your Wi-Fi so that people won't just pull up outside your house and like tack themselves onto your internet. Your neighbors are currently stealing your internet because you don't have your Wi-Fi locked down. Like
Right.
it's hard to imagine we had more households not locked down for their
Oh, yeah.
Wi-Fi connections. Like a big no-no. So I love the security aspects of it, but I also love the fact that there are people who focus on it and specialize in it. And data is the same way, as you know, like it has specialties, it has specific domains where you go specialize. And inside of each one of those subdomains is even different specialties inside of it. So that can be hard when you're starting, though. Um, would you say that it took you a little while to really find your technical lane?
Yeah, I mean, well, through one of my great mentors, and he's passed, but he lives on. My staff has to continue to hear. Well, Jim Riley said this, so therefore
Yeah,
we will do it this way.
yeah,
But when I first started, I didn't start just as cybersecurity. Being a former CIO, being a former infrastructure security, business continuity, disaster recovery, I had a broad set of skills, and so I basically said, in the efforts to do some business and naive marketing strategy, hey, I can do any of this stuff. What do you
mm,
want? And somebody said, David, you seem like a pretty smart guy, but you just dumped your briefcase on my desk and asked me to pick something, and I don't really know what to do.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so that's where Jim Riley said, hey, I think that security thing is, you can do that other stuff. You can do the business continuity. You can do the CIO advisory services. But I think the security thing is going to be big. And so why don't we try to narrow down your focus just to security? So when I first started and SecureIT 360 was born under a very terrible name called Forum 360, which the next question would be, well, what does Forum 360 stand for? And that's where Jim Riley said, you're spending too much time talking about your name than you are
Yeah,
talking about what you do. So let's
yeah.
change it to something that kind of denotes what you do so that you're kind of that much farther along in the conversation. So
Man,
very
that's
wise man.
very wise man. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He seems like he was a great
yeah.
mentor. So yeah, just keep channeling that as much as you
Yeah.
need to if he's given that type
Yeah.
of advice. So let's talk a little bit about data because we both have a shared love of data and we do
Mm-hmm.
different things with it, but we do some of the same things with it. Just fascinating to me. But I often have moments where data has just spectacularly broken my expectations. And for me, like the last time I wrote about it was about the kangaroo. I realized kangaroos were not loving and cuddly. They were massive and terrifying. And it was like, where did I get this idea that this Like, why did I dream up a kangaroo was like a koala bear? And who knows, koala bears may also be scary.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it blew my mind up, and I was like, wow, I need to write about how sometimes we have these ideas and then something completely breaks our expectations. So has there ever been a moment where, you could think about where data or the data totally broke your expectations?
I can't think of one. Well, one specific point. It kept me in a cold server room for about 48 hours to where my hands were. I'd have to just go outside and shake my hands out just to warm up, and that was when I accidentally took down the Kentucky Revenue Cabinets. Yeah, single-handedly almost took down the Kentucky Revenue Cabinets network, and the governor called and asked when he could deposit checks again. So that was
Oh,
that
oh,
actually that somebody poked their head in the door while I was freezing, and so that's where the data led me back to like, oh, here is a mistake that has been made, and that was pretty spectacular. We had to fly
uh,
other people. We had to fly other people, experts in to help, but once we researched it and figured out, I had actually found a bug and they've been since sold. For those of you that remember compact servers, they used to be
yeah.
they used to be the flagship, but there was some of the software and drivers that were supposed to support a multi-processor environment, and we made a hardware change, and I followed the process, and it still broke, and it took
Oh
us days
no,
to get it back up, and through the investigation, we figured out like, oh, we did it right. The software
that's
has a bug in it,
amazing.
and it doesn't work, and then there's plenty of others which I would say spectacular, but
I want to talk
when we
before we move on. I,
yeah.
I really want to talk about that because you hit on something that is like, I don't know. I feel weird that it's near and dear to my heart, but you just made the total case for root cause analysis, and before that, you made the real case for change management. Like in
Mhm.
your scenario that you just described, change management, you had it, you followed it, and you could tell that you followed it, and then root cause analysis lets you see like this is where the meltdown. So because how do you fix problems when you don't really figure out where they're happening?
Right. Well, you made an assumption that I followed change management process. Part
Oh,
of
okay. Well, I thought you said that.
had there been a little bit of somebody slowed me down to fix the problem,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
yeah, a little more strict change management, we might not have spent that much time in the in the data
Oh
center.
yeah. Okay.
We might have tested it first before we went to
Okay.
production, and so that was partially David brought that one on himself.
Okay.
It wasn't just the bug in the software. So
That's okay. All right. Well, I think
yeah,
that's also important too. Like,
yeah.
how did you feel when you recognized that? How did that hit you professionally? That had to feel like,
Uh,
oh, yikes. How do I prevent this in the future?
well, I think for a lot of smart, especially people that are in technology, but I think it would translate to just about any other field. There's a time when you're up and coming, you are, becoming a master of your craft, you're motivated, you want to solve problems, you want to help, and you jump in and you don't realize you don't have the seat time, you don't realize you don't have
Mhm.
the experience. So what I would call that is an oh crap moment, which
Okay.
you can substitute the S word. And there's plenty of folks that have worked under me over the years that have experienced that, and they're like, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble for this. And I'm like, all right, good. You have now experienced that moment. I bet if it hurt bad enough, you're going to learn from it, and you're probably not going to do something like that again.
Yes.
So I feel firmly that people have to have enough of those. And so I love it, classic interview question. Tell me, when you've made a mistake or screwed up or whatever. And people who say, well, I really haven't had anything that bad happen to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you haven't, then I don't want you doing it for me.
Yeah.
So,
Just got
yeah,
scared of you
so I
then.
want to, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes.
Oh gosh,
You
that's
shouldn't
good
be,
stuff.
you shouldn't be scared to share that and what you learned from it.
Why do you think that is so hard? Like first of all, I would just complete disclaimer, not every leadership role or leader you ever meet is going to feel like David, and I also share that feeling of, I don't want you to mess up, but like if you mess up, like this is good opportunity for learning. why do you think it is so hard for like first of all, I don't want people to miss out on giving a good answer to that question. Like when
Well,
people are asking those questions, like some leaders are looking for you to say, like, this is how I problem solve. Why is
yeah.
it so like why is it such a hard question to answer?
Well, I think especially in America, I don't think all cultures are as hard charging as we are.
Okay.
You know, the optics nowadays, and it's been like this for years. You know, that upward mobility, climbing that ladder. I mean, it's not the current political and media situation, but you know, there appears to be a spotlight on mistakes. And so people don't want to say they've had mistakes. And
Okay.
I would say it's, you know, you want to show that, and especially it's kind of the American way, you know, do it yourself, be strong, figure it out. You don't want to be vulnerable and admit your weaknesses.
Mm,
And I know especially for men, because there's been millions of books written about this, about
yeah.
men
Yeah.
being vulnerable and not always having the answer and stopping to ask for directions or whatever it might be. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just people, you know, especially in our culture, they're concerned that if they show a weakness or show that they made a mistake, that's going to be held against them when actually it could be a strength. And going back to what I said
Mm,
earlier about, well, I don't want you to make that mistake for me. It's a little bit different than that. That's not that. I mean, I've had my staff. You know, I've had plenty of people that work for me that have made some pretty serious mistakes, which we've
yeah,
all
happens.
recovered from. Which is kind of interesting too, because when you talk to a customer and say, "Hey, the team, we messed up. We're going to make it right." If you address it head on, many times I haven't had a customer in my whole existence say, "I can't believe you weren't perfect." You know,
Right.
yeah, I mean, so, but the other part too, I think, is when a candidate says something like that to me, it's like you're not being honest with yourself.
Yes.
You're trying to game the system to get into my organization, and you know it's important to me that we're transparent and honest with each other,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
okay when we make mistakes. So
It's a high
that's
stakes game. When you're talking about servicing the security of an organization or servicing the data of an organization, these are pretty important things to a company, right? And there's a
mhm,
lot of trust that has to be built there. But I do think it's good. Like we do our best to try to like make it like as real life as we can so we can insulate the people that we're bringing up and let them practice and try so they can make their mistakes and we're the customer.
right,
And I find that that helps a lot just to kind of build up that consultative approach to work and
yep,
things like that. But I'm like you, like we're going to make mistakes.
yep.
Things come
Well,
out of nowhere.
and you put checks and balances in place, like
Yeah.
like what you talked about with change management. If that check and balance had been in place, that might have prevented that downtime. And so you create an environment where you know people aren't going to be perfect, but you've got that regular review by other people to catch something that they might have missed.
Yeah. I know sometimes organizations they maybe think they have a handle on their change management. This may be a good place to say, like, that's if you're trying to put new initiatives or whatever technical initiative it is, I don't care. Like that may be one area you can start the conversation is okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the change and how we and people don't love change. So I just say
No,
rip the band-aid off and if you're making any technical
exactly.
changes, you got to have a change management
Yeah.
process and do
But
root cause analysis when it doesn't work out.
right, but going back to the original question you had, or the most recent one, was about when data, you know, didn't hit, you know, surprised us
Yeah,
uh,
breaks
by
expectations.
what we expected. We commonly find that in our incident response investigation. So again,
Mhm.
nobody's perfect. You know, people aren't in business or in their nonprofit to be the most secure whatever. And so the bad guys, that's what they're after. They are spending 100% of their time trying to hack you. You're not spending 100% of your time trying to be secure. You're spending most of your time trying to deliver whatever service or product you have, or
That's
whatever,
right.
you know, if it's a charity, whatever other mission you have, and you're spending a smaller percentage of your time trying to be secure, but you're trying to do it prudently. So incidents happen, and these are bad people, and they're criminals, and they do terrible things. But where the data is very interesting is so many times people assume, oh, they must have come in this way and they must have done this and they did that. And I saw this little thing over here. And so I think they were over here. Well, sometimes they plant that just to lead you astray.
Oh, wow.
So that's why
Scary.
you need to spend that time doing a detailed data gathering exercise, look for evidence,
Mm.
and everybody's just got to stop and take their hands off the keyboard. And sometimes it's not what you think. We had an investigation not too long ago where a company that writes internet facing software for financial organizations, pretty high stakes, they found some strange stored procedures in a database, and nobody that worked there had put them in. And so they were like, oh my gosh, somebody's gotten in. What else have they done? And, there was like a sleepless weekend for that owner, which I talked to
Sure.
him several times. And through the investigation, we still can't tell you how they got in there, but we could not find any evidence that, even just looking at the procedures, that they were malicious, that they would have leaked data. There was nothing in their systems that showed any other malicious activity. So that was a very positive outcome. It's like, yes, something strange happened in your environment, but we cannot find any evidence that it was malicious or bad or exposed customer data or exfiltrated customer data, anything like that. And so sometimes that's what the investigation leads to. Now it's good to, let's err on the side of prudence. Like, what's worst case scenario? Let's start there, and then let's
Yeah.
work our way back. But just
Wow,
because
that
you
can be a
find,
game changer for a firm's
Mhm.
security practice, like, right? Or the practices around how they secure their information. You're
Yeah,
like, "Hey, you dodged it's like you dodged it on this one. Like, this could have
yeah,
been way worse, and now
yeah,
you need to
yeah.
prevent it
Well, and
as best
without,
you can."
agreed, and without a prudent investigation, I'm not just, I mean, but this is just another example of, wow, here's where they came in. So if this is not your profession and you haven't done these things before, and you're the IT director, and you know your systems inside out, and you find the log entries and you're sure that this is what happened, oh, let's just restore back before this point because this is where we saw them, and then we'll be back up and running just fine. Well, little did you realize that they hid their tracks, and you just restored them right back into the environment. So
Right.
all of that work you did. So again, you've got to do those data points, the evidence, the exhaustive process is just so required, and not just in instant response, in other areas of troubleshooting IT as well, because sometimes it's just not plain to see
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened and what caused it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So maybe we can come back together again and talk about when
Mm-hmm.
organizations have to pivot.
Yep.
And we don't mean reporting, right? I think that could be fun to unpack
Mm-hmm.
with you. So we're getting close to the end here. I'm going to jump us right to my favorite part of this, which is the guest choice of what is your data point? So David Forrestall, tell me,
Yeah.
what's your data point?
So I know you're a data junkie.
Mhm.
I was going to try to boil it down to just, what is it? Is there, a finish line, a number I'm trying to reach, a place I'm trying to achieve? And I don't think it's that easy, especially if I think it broadly. If there's a measure of life balance, if there's a number or a data point that you could put on life balance, I think that's what I'm trying to achieve. And here's the thing: is every time I think I know what that is, it moves.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
every
moving
time you hit
target.
a milestone, you're not done. I mean, we're not done till we leave this earth. So,
Right.
so, so it's always changing. But one of the things that I do, and I've got other great mentors, is you got to look at metrics in different areas of your life. What about your faith? What about your family? Your fitness, your friends? All these are F's. They're easy to remember.
Yeah.
But then if you look at those and make sure you're doing the right things in those areas. What about yourself? When did you leave room to just relax and unplug, to do some personal growth and development,
Yeah.
and not overachieve in every area? I mean, sometimes the achievement is the fact that you're not chasing something else at this moment. So,
I like that a
so,
lot.
so yeah, I think my data point is life balance, but it's comprised of that's a I don't think we can roll it up into one number, and I don't think that it's static. It's ever changing.
I would agree with you. I don't think you can roll. I think it's a combination of numbers. And you're
Hmm.
right, it's elusive because it's a moving target.
Yep.
Sometimes people will say, "Oh, you know," I'll say something like, "Well, I don't know what I wanna be when I grow up," and they think I've already accomplished all the things. And I'm like, "No, I've
Yep.
accomplished nothing yet. I still have a lot to
Yep.
go." So, yeah, I don't like the concept of work-life balance, but I like what you're putting out there, which is just balance. Like, you're looking for
Yep.
that balance, and you're using all those things to balance yourself out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and one piece that's very important too, especially since we've got a responsibility to shepherd our herd.
That's right.
So and then I feel very honored to be in a position where I do lead others, but also too is looking back at them and like how are we growing them? And I as soon as you think you're doing good, you hit that milestone or you win that big client or whatever it might be, you're like, wow, man, this is great. And then you're like, oh man, I forgot about like these seven things that are also very important. Like, so we got to constantly reevaluate and measure and look back at our teams and make sure you know, we're all rising together.
Yeah. What is it? A high tide rises all boats. Is that what it
Yep.
is?
Yep. All
I
ships.
think
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great way to end this today. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. And since you're in your fabulous rental RV doing fun things,
Yep.
I really appreciate you coming in and having some real talk with me about this. And I can't wait to talk again. All right.
All
Until
right,
next
Robin.
time.
Thanks so
See ya.
much.